everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and this is The Lifeboat. People, if you were to go to a rehabilitation center as a way to try to get sober, and it's an option, and there are some great ones out there that really work well, but for a lot of people, it's not feasible, and for a lot of people, it doesn't work. It's one of those things that, for whatever reason, some people tend to resist. But if you were to go to one, they're going to put together something called a recovery plan, and what it does is it's literally a plan for your recovery, and there are things on there that you tick off. And for some people, that kind of structure is awesome. I don't think it's a bad idea. But one of the things that I've done that's a little bit different, and I recommend this to anyone who's in the process of recovery. If you're getting sober, if you think about it, people, we have rules for everything, right? You have rules for you drive a car. We know what a stop sign does, right? Red lights, yellow lights, green lights, right? There are rules for every single thing that we do. We don't have rules for getting sober and staying sober. And one of the things that I would recommend is coming up with a list of those rules. And I would come up with a list of rules, not just for sobriety, but for just about everything in life. It may sound silly to you, but let's say you're a newlywed, ideally, because teaching old dogs new tricks is tough. But even if you've been married a long time, if you implement rules in a marriage, do you know how much better marriages work? For real, if you have rules. For instance, if you say, this is going to sound silly to you, I promise this is genius. If we're going to get into an argument and there's something that, we realize it's starting. I'm mad about this, blah, blah. Sit down across the table from one another and hold each other's hands while you argue. Watch how much different that changes the entire dynamic. Things like when I talked about apologies and someone says, I forgive you. There's a rule in terms of I forgive you. And as newlyweds, that's the greatest thing in the world. Baby, you did this and I cannot believe you did this. Well, I'm not ready to forgive you, because when I say I forgive you, I can never bring it up again as long as I live. There are married couples today, and they're going to hear my voice talk about this, and you'll either chuckle or grit your teeth. But there are married couples today where they get into an argument and the husband will bring up something that the wife did in 1977. Well, you remember that time when Jimmy Carter was president and you did. I mean, how is that healthy in a relationship? Deal with things, get them put aside. You understand what I'm saying? So it is important, people, to have rules in life. It's important to have rules that you live by. And in sobriety, that's massive. For me, and my rules and your rules are never going to be the same. But to give you an idea of how the framework is put together, how I did it, I have rules. I will not be in a house that someone's using drugs in. Plain and simple. I cannot allow that to happen. So if I go over to your house and you go, yeah, well, listen, we're just going to smoke a joint. It's only weed. And in this state, it's legal. I'm not going to be there while they smoke a joint. Plain and simple. I don't have anything against cannabis. I don't. Personally, I think it should be legal in every single state in the union. And I don't think it's a particularly dangerous drug for the rest of the world. But it is for me. So I'm not going to be there, regardless of what the chemical is that someone is using. I'm not going to be in the room when they use it. The exception to that might be alcohol. However, if I go to a place and they're doing shots, I'm gone. Because, there's nothing, you have a glass of wine at dinner. To me, that's a very social thing. You're throwing back shots. You're not doing it for taste, and you're not doing it to be social. You're getting drunk. Like you're seeking the fastest possible way to catch a buzz. I'm not going to be around that, plain and simple. I will not drive somebody in my car who I think is under the influence or I think might be carrying any kind of chemical on them. And I will not drive someone someplace where they may be going to pick up drugs. These are rules that are hard and fast that I will live by. Those are on the top of the food chain in terms of the list for my sobriety. Other things are the ones that are a little bit more subtle. I will not leave my house without making my bed. I've hammered this, right? It's a very big thing for me. It doesn't have to be for you. People joke about it in the comments section all the time. Oh no, I got to start making my bed. No, you don't. I do, right? If I injure somebody, and even if it's just perceived on my end, because the last 3 or 4 times I have felt the need to apologize for somebody that I injured, I was, told in no uncertain terms that I, in fact, did not injure them. Doesn't matter. I'm not the one allowed to make that decision. If I feel like what I did was doing something wrong, then I have to address it, and I have to address it as fast as possible. That's a rule of mine. If I'm dishonest, I need to fix it instantly. Just some of the simplest situations, where it's just a lot easier than getting into the truth. I'll give you an example. I have to fill out a monthly probation report, and I'll have to for a very long time as part of the federal probation, the whole bank robbery thing. I have to do this each and every month, and it comes up on the first of the month. Well, it's not working. The computer is not allowing me to do it, so I'm going to have to go down to the probation office. And I was doing some errands with Ma Scoville today, and I had mentioned that I had to go down to the probation office. It's going downtown, and they're having a rib cook-off, and it's going to be a nightmare. I don't want to do it. So she said to me, "Were you able to get it put into the computer?" And I said, yep, I got it put in. And then not 2 seconds later went, "No, I didn't." No, I didn't. That's not the truth. But I don't feel like arguing that I don't want to go down there right now. So I thought, I'm sorry. I'm being dishonest. The old me wouldn't even consider fixing something like that. The old me just would have stuck with the lie because it was so much easier than risking. And the funny thing is, my mom was like, "Well, all right," and then we went shopping anyway. That's a rule of mine, that if I feel myself starting to get a little sideways with honesty, I have to fix it, and I have to fix it instantly. These are the rules for me. One of the rules is not cursing. Because when I start to curse, and I've been doing it lately, I really lost it the other night talking to someone who is a person on the boat, and I was just having one of those nights, and I started letting them fly, and that's a rule of mine that when I start to break, and I apologized, which is one of the rules I have. If I start to lose it, it's not enough for me to realize and accept it. Saying out loud, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that." And of course, what did they say? It's no big deal, I don't care. It's a rule. And if I don't acknowledge that I'm breaking my own rules, people, what's happening to the cool slide, right? I'm going right back down. So you need to assemble a set of rules for your own sobriety. And I can't make them for you, but you absolutely better have them. Because when we set out structure, how do we stop this whole relapse process from happening? And I've touched on it so many times that when you start to relapse is not when you start to use. Those are two different things. So as that slide starts going down the hill, that's when you need to jam on the brakes. But if there aren't rules in place, how do you really know? You've got this sort of gray area where maybe, I don't know if no, man, just make a set of rules and stick to those set of rules. It should be very basic, and they should almost jump out at you. If there are things for you that are huge triggers, right? If your drug of choice was the same as mine, and watching Pulp Fiction is a trigger because one of the great needle breaking the skin and that whole scene in Pulp Fiction where he injects is very difficult for people who have used a needle. It's a difficult thing to watch. I personally don't watch it. Now, I don't mind watching the movie. I mean, when they sit around and their eyes are heavy and they're kind of doing the nod, that's just a couple of actors, pretending they're on heroin. That's not a big deal to me. Watching that syringe filled with blood is not something that I can do. It's not something I could do. So I have a rule that if that comes on, I'll just leave the room. I don't need to make a scene. Hey, turn this thing off. I'm a junkie, right? I'm a recovering addict. I just get up. That's just a scene that I'm not going to be in the room for. These are the kind of things that I have put a framework together that are working very well for me to keep me from relapse. People start making rules for life. You don't have to have a big list of them on the wall, but you have to have a set of rules, right? Without rules, you don't know if you're screwing up. Make rules for your marriage. Make rules between your parents and your kids. And we're actually going to be doing some stuff where I'm printing some of those up because those are pretty hard and fast, and I can help with those. But for your own sobriety, I can't tell you what's going to work for you and what isn't in terms of the rules. You may have no problem watching a movie like Trainspotting. It may not be a trigger for you. I've heard people in the comments section that said it's not a trigger for me at all. And truthfully, Trainspotting doesn't bother me. It doesn't. But if it did, it would be on my list of rules. If there is a movie that makes me uncomfortable, I don't sit through it. Because when I do, I'm starting that backslide. I don't want to be so comfortable that I can be in a room with drugs being used. That doesn't, to me, in my sobriety, very unique to my sobriety, that doesn't prove that I'm being strong. It proves that I'm being weak. And I'm not allowing that. You know, if I make a set of rules and I don't stick to them, that's weak. That's what that is. So please, people, think of this going forward. And again, as always, just think about the things that I'm telling you. You don't have to do every single thing that I tell you. It's not a one-size-fits-all by any stretch. What I'm trying to do is get you to think. And the 8 steps, I'm going to be going over them in the very near future, one step at a time, and where I will take an entire video and just do step 1 and an entire video step 2 or step 3, etc. The thing with that is, and I'd like to do that so that we can have a little playlist of just the steps and you can go through them. But you can write your own steps. You hear me? In any other rehab, I'm going to tell you that you most assuredly cannot. People, you can write your own steps, but they need to tick off certain things, and we're going to go over those. But, you know, put together the plan that's going to work for you. But if you plan on doing that without rules, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. There has to be rules so that you know if you're breaking them, right? Does that make sense? I really hope it does. People, this is the day I go back to work, right? You have any idea what time it is? Let's just say it's early. And I'm going to shoot another video when this is done because I have to have one for tonight. I'll be at work then too. I will be working. The new schedule is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., which means your comments are going to get answered, but they're not going to get answered until about 7 p.m. Don't give up on me. I promise you, I will be there. I'm your captain. I'm going to be there. But I'm going to be there on different hours, and we'll get through it, right? I promise you we will. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and this is the lifeboat. Down here, it's going to pop up. All you got to do is click on that. You can become part of this boat. And if you don't want to, ask yourself why. Then down here, people, what you're going to see is a set of videos. And click on them. Watch them. There are nuggets in there. They're going to help you. They really are. You're going to find things that trigger things in your brain. That's the purpose of the show. I am your captain. I will see you this evening.